of the Grand Tang Dynasty architecture style. And it might also strike you as they look kind of Japanese-alike. That's a misconception, at least a wrong order of reason and result. Japan sent envoys and students to Xi'an regularly. Many of them stayed. As the most advanced and prosperous city in the world at that time, Chang'an was also the least discriminating place for foreigners in the world history. In Tang government, foreigners enjoy even equal career opportunities as local Chinese. Of course, still most of Japanese students went back home in hope of building a reformed Japan modeled after the Grand China. Architecture is one of the most important Chinese exports to Japan. Today, the best preserved architecture of Tang style is to be found in Nara and Kyoto in Japan. Of course, naturally in smaller scale than Tang Chang'an. Famen Temple used to be the exclusive royal family temple served by more than 25,000 Buddhist monks, and no low form of life would ever allow to get in. And discovery of the Sakyamuni finger bowl in 1987 joined millions of people come to this place to visit. And under this pagoda, there were literally thousands of Buddhist relics were discovered. The underground palace found under this pagoda is 21 meters long with 4 continuous blocks, full of valuable relics tributed by Tang emperors personally. The palace is only 1.2 meters high, so it suggests that even emperors have to climb in by knees. That's probably the only time when a Grand Tang emperor stayed such a low profile. And it could also be the only opportunity in this emperor's lifetime. The palace used to be only opened every 30 years, in a strict Buddhist ritual, for the emperor in power paying respect to the Buddha's finger bone and pray for the prosperity of the country. The underground palace have never been excavated or robbed before the discovery nearly 20 years ago. Its relics boast at the largest of its kind. More than 2,000 pieces of the most valuable treasure of the most glorious time are in display here. But for all Buddhists in the world, it is a remains of finger bones of Buddha that separates Famen Temple from any other temples in China. For Buddhists, that's the real sacred treasure. And it's said for a Buddhist, seeing this is almost like catching a glimpse of the shadow of the Buddha. The Tang Empire extended from Turkish states in the west, Japan to the east, from Siberia in the north to Vietnam in the south, covering more territory than Alexander the Great and the Roman Empire. Within the Tang Dynasty's centuries-long prosperity, 50 years can be credited to one woman, Wu Zetian. Famous for her beauty and intelligence, Wu Zetian was chosen to the imperial court as concubine at age of 14, lived till 82, held power for more than 50 years. Qianling is the only imperial tomb shared by 2 emperors, Wu Zetian and her husband. It says Emperor Gaozong not only get a feng shui checked out for this tomb, but also want to let nature to capture the beauty of his wife. And those peaks behind me is called breast peaks. It's not very surprising considering the Tang Dynasty open social climate. As the only empress in China's entire history, she was known as hardworking, sagacious, but also ruthless and good at political intrigue. Like many historical figures in history, Wu Zetian is very controversial as well. There are different theories about this wordless tablet. One theory that she thinks her achievement in her lifetime was wordless, beyond praise. But with my understanding of this heroine in my life, I'm more inclined in another theory. I would rather believe that she was one of the rare clear-headed monarchs who could accept that, merits or demerits, history has its own verdict. The achievements of Wu Zetian's reign and her predecessors were carried forward and further developed, eventually brought the Tang Dynasty to the peak of its Kaiyuan splendor. It was only the time like Tang Dynasty that could offer a stage for a woman like Wu Zetian, and her achievement in turn helped to enhance the position of women in the society. At one point, she even employed scholars to write biographies of famous women. First time, served as a reminder to everyone what she herself proved to be, that women were every bit as capable of men, plus, most of the time, more beautiful.
咱们就是现在看到的这幅壁画中间端杯子的这位宫女，由于她的神态、体态以及她端杯的动作都恰到好处，所以呢，这位宫女她被中外艺术家就公认为是古代东方第一大美女。可以看一下。
Unlike today, the ideal figure for women in Tang Dynasty is a plump figure, kind of round and cute. Look at this one. Seems like just claiming, I'm big but beautiful. Don't you wish you just lived in that dynasty? And this is probably the most famous beauty representing that standard. Yang Yuhuan, concubine to Emperor Xuanzong, is known as one of China's famous four beauties over the history, and probably the plumpest one. Emperor Xuanzong rebuilt this palace, dedicating to her as one of the attempts to winning her heart. He was believed to fall in love at the first sight, although he was 30 years senior and was her father-in-law at that time. It doesn't sound like a couple matched in heaven, but the emperor, of course, got what he wanted eventually, and the couple spent most winter months here together. Now something exciting. We're going to peek how one of China's most famous beauty take a bath. In Chinese legends, she was described as a woman not only have a full and sensual figure, but also a woman with perfect skin. Before the time of expensive lotion, hot spring in her Huaqing palace is said to be the secret of that. Talk about the long history of bathing culture. Only Roman Empire can compare with China. And during the Tang Dynasty, it became extremely more popular. And this was a private bath tube of concubine Yang. And the image of her stepping out of the bath tube was captured by one poem. And that became an eternal story. You want cold water better?
Now,
People are all very excited just to share the water that concubine Yang has ever shared. And looking forward to get prettier, better skiing. But I'm catching a cold. I just hope this hot spring will help me get over it. For budget living, a friend of mine tips me about this international youth host town, and I didn't expect what a luxury right under the city wall.
Xi'an is ranked as second must-see place after Beijing. 1/6 of foreign tourists coming to China come to this city. Although package tours most likely only includes a couple of days stay in their itineraries. So if you want to come as individual traveler and want to find a bargain rate for lodging in the central city, this is a place.
So when you stroll around in Xi'an city, what struck you most?
Well, for me, I think the contrast, the old and the new, the gates, the pagodas are absolutely gorgeous. And then the city street that we found last night, right outside this hostel, looked like New York City.
With lighting and lighting.
With beautiful lights and neon, and very tastefully done.
It's not only the courtyard, the warm smiles, bargain price, and central location, but a sense of community here that can easily make you feel at home. At a chilly winter night, what can make one feel warm and cozy than a dumpling dinner party with some newly met friends? The traditional Chinese dish, dumpling, is a new found here. The dining table is also always the best place to exchange travel tips and sharing experiences.
Oh, definitely. That's me.
It's like tofu and celery. It's the first time for you to make Chinese dumpling. Do you know how long ago the Chinese people started eating dumpling?
2,000 years ago?
How come you know that? Like when?
I'm a dumpling expert.
Oh really? Tell me more.
She was almost right. Along the Silk Road, some 2,000 years old dumpling process was discovered. So that might be some mutual influence between Chinese dumpling or Italian ravioli. That was one of the subjects of discussion that night.
Xi'an is pretty.
Xi'an is very interesting. Xi'an is full of very friendly people.
It was from here I learned the saying, to learn the last 1,000 years of Chinese history, visit Beijing. To learn 5,000 years history prior to that, visit Xi'an. Yes, the first emperor, the terracotta soldiers, the Han culture, the China ware. Trust me, there's just too much left to see in Xi'an, and you can't afford to miss Travelogue next week. See you then. I'm Yanling. Bye bye.